Okay, I think that might be it. So I'm going to make a start. If people are coming late, then they can just sort of hang around and grab a seat at the front. So my name's Laura. I'm from the Careers, Employability and Enterprise Centre. And I'm here today just to do a really quick talk about what it is that we do. Can I just be really old school and have a quick show of hands? Who's a prospective student here? So perfect. Okay, spot on. So I think everybody else must just be interested parties and or other. So this is where we are based. Am I your first talk for the day? Yes, no? Yeah, perfect. So it's a lot of pressure for me, so thanks. But this is where we are based, so if you have got the rest of the day, chances are you probably walk past the Palatine Centre, so do have a call in, then you can have a look at all of the resources that are available for you to use. So I'm going to focus the talk just on the 4 main questions that our students do ask us. Obviously this is quite a massive one. How do I choose my career path? Also, how do you target your employer? How do you find work experience? And how do I develop my skills? So first off, how do you choose my career? Of those prospective students who are coming in, does anybody already have an idea what they want to do when they leave? A couple. Okay, that's perfect. I hate asking that question. I go into freshers group talks and one of the first things I have to say is, do you know what you're going to do when you leave? And then it sort of fast forwards 3 years, everybody's degree is then finished and it's a very scary thought. But it's always good to know just what people are thinking when they come in. So we can do a lot of things to help people choose their career path. And obviously, some of you already know and some of you haven't got a clue, and that's completely fine. There'll be people will work that out at completely different stages. I'm a Durham graduate, I came here, I had no idea. A year later, I still had no idea. And then I sort of found myself in this industry. So that's completely fine. It's just all about developing your skills as you go through. So for choosing your own career path, these are all of the things that we have available. In the Palatine Centre that I mentioned before, we have got an information room, which is stocked full of information of a whole heap of different careers. So it's got information like what your cohort of students were doing last year. So if you're doing a languages degree, then it'll tell you everything that everybody who did the languages degree currently went on to do, as well as things that are sort of standard in your industry. So nationally, what people with a languages degree would do, as well as just feasible options that are open to you. There's also a lot of career planning information, which just breaks down the steps that you need to get somewhere. So if you want to be an HR manager, it'll tell you how you need to get there, what experience and skills that you need. As well as obviously CV and application advice, interview techniques, assessment centre help, all of those standard things. We have a lot of additional information on our website as well. And one of the things that we do really quite well here is use our student intellect, because obviously they're going through the assessment centres and the process that you as students will as well. So if we have a student who's gone for an assessment centre, say with Deloitte, we ask them to tell us what their experience was and what their assessment centre consisted of, so that we can tell the next round of students. Does that make sense? Perfect. Obviously, the assessment centre help free publications to take away. Often, when you go in the information room, there's a massive table as soon as you walk in the middle. Everything on there is completely free to take, so please do help yourself take away anything that's on there. And then for any students who are starting in September, we do get targeted by employers with free stuff. And all of our free stuff goes on that table. So if you're ever just calling past, do come in, see if there's any notebooks or USB pens or anything that you can steal. Obviously, we've got a lot of IT resources, and I would strongly suggest that if somebody is starting, in fact, even if you're not necessarily going to come to Durham, then we have a lot of information on our website. It's not the best website, obviously we are restricted, but it's got ridiculous amounts of information on. So if you're thinking about any sort of career path, then do have a look on and see if it's got anything of interest to you on it. The other thing that we can do, obviously we have careers advisors, of which I am one. We have 5 available and one who's specific to postgrad students and PhD students. Just as a matter of interest, is anybody here for a postgrad course, or is everybody undergrad? Perfect. And we can obviously go through you to see with you what your skills are, where you as an individual fit. A lot of the information that you find throughout your time here when you're looking at any websites or going even on our website will be quite generic. It'll be like, this is what people with a languages degree do, this is what people with a business degree do. But what we can do as careers advisors is really work with you to work out what it is that you as an individual want to do and where you can take that. One of the brilliant things about the UK recruitment system is that you can pretty much take any degree and take it anywhere that you want to go. You might need to do some additional qualifications or get a little bit more experience, but it's still fine as a basis. So often you can sort of get blinded by the fact that there's just so many opportunities. So where do you go and what do you choose? And we can help students try to narrow that down a little bit. So looking at how you can get the perfect career, obviously that starts with developing your skills. And here there are thousands of opportunities to do that. It's absolutely no exaggeration. So first off, developing your skills with us starts before you even start at university. We ask all students to complete a skills audit, which really just does sort of, as it says on the tin, it's a bit of a fact check of all of these key skills that our research from employers shows that they want. And then students can test themselves to see how strong that their skills are at entry into university level. It'll then give you loads of tips and advice on how to develop those skills that aren't necessarily your strengths. So if you don't have excellent entrepreneurial behaviours, if you're not necessarily proactive and can see an opportunity and take it, then it'll tell you about all the different things that are available in Durham to help you really try and strengthen those skills. Does that make sense? Perfect, a lot of nodding heads, that's what I like to see. We also have the Durham Award. A lot of universities will do this, and I would suggest that no matter where you go, it is something really good to get involved with. They often have excellent links with employers, as we do, and it really helps demonstrate, it sort of helps you stand above everybody else. Obviously, if you graduate from Durham with a 2-1, there's you and thousands of other people who are also graduating from Durham with a 2-1, but this is a much smaller pool. You have to fit certain criteria to do it, so you need to have done something for society, something for college, and something else extracurricular, so often be involved in sport or something like that, or volunteering. And then you sort of submit that. You go through a bit of a process with graduate recruitment interviewers. Then at the end of it, if you pass, then you get the Durham Award, which obviously is excellent for your CV. And it means that you've got exposure to the whole recruitment process as you go through. It can be a really good thing to do if anybody does come in and wants to think about doing this. You build up the experiences in your first and second year, then you apply for it in your third year. But we have had instances where we've had graduate employers on panels for Durham Awards, and then they've handed over their business cards and said, give me a ring tomorrow, I'd like to offer you an opportunity. So it can be a really valuable thing to do. The other thing that we do is a massive range of skills workshops. Obviously, we can lead them as careers advisors, but they're so much stronger when they're led by employers, because you know that as students, you're getting the information from the people who are going to be recruiting you. And we have excellent relationships with employers. So we have lots of skills workshops, which are essentially interactive workshops, where employers come in, they'll tell you all about how to fill in assessment centres, how to fill in interviews, how to do application form CVs for them. So what can be really helpful is we get like lawyers coming in talking about their sort of format, we get people from business coming in talking about their format, third sector telling about how they want to have theirs done. So it can be really helpful for you in your niche area rather than it just being generic. So how do I find work experience? So by now you've done your skills audit, you've come in, we've given you advice on what you can do, and you've taken the advice, this is obviously an ideal world, and you have done everything that was suggested to you, so now you need a bit of work experience. As more and more students graduate, and as more and more students get better, and they're better skilled, and they've got more competencies, and they've got more examples of the different things that they've done, work experience in the area that you want to work in is becoming more and more important. If you want to be a journalist, and you haven't done any work experience in the journalism societies, and the first thing somebody's going to ask you is why. If you want to be a probation officer and you've not worked in a prison, then somebody is going to ask you why. So what you've really got to do during your time, either here or in any other university, is to get as much work experience in your field as possible. What can be really nice in your first year is just to do a little bit of everything. I'm sure for those who don't know what they want to do, it's not going to change because you find one set of work experience, but as a first year, you almost have the allowance of that innocence, if that makes sense. So you're allowed to not know where you want to go, so you're allowed to do taster days, but by the end of your second year and going into your third year, expectation from employers will be that you've chosen where you want to go and you're trying to do a targeted focus on that employment area, so work experience is really important. So this is how we can help. So the Student Employment Service, we ask that all applicable sort of student-facing jobs go through the career service. So jobs like the student ambassador, give a wave, thanks. They're obviously all students. Any sort of assistants that are within sports services or academic departments, that's all students. So all of those opportunities go to students, which allows you to A, make money, and then B, develop your employability, so that when employers ask you to show teamwork or communication or problem-solving skills, you can say, well, when I was helping out at the careers fair, and then you can give your examples from there. Does that make sense? Perfect. We also do placements and internships. So this is a case study of a chemistry student, but obviously it runs across all programs. So we assist with various internships, which may take place over the summer, over Easter, possibly even over Christmas. And placement years are also a choice. Does anybody know about placement years? Okay, so 1 or 2, perfect. So this is primarily in the sciences, but it is available in other courses as well. So basically you would do your first 2 years, then you would go to an employer and do a 3rd year with the employer, and then you'd come back to university to do essentially your 4th year of education back in university. Does that make sense? Can be a really, really good thing for anybody who has that opportunity, because it means that essentially you've done the job, like you've done a graduate level job when you've still been at university. So to employers, when you finish, you're so much more an attractive proposition than somebody who's done 3 years without it. But that said, obviously there's pros and cons of sort of splitting your degree. So again, if anybody's thinking about that, do speak to a careers advisor. We can go through all of the information with you. And then the other thing that we do is to help you be enterprising. So anybody own their own business or got ideas of owning their own business? Me, I've always got ideas of owning my own business. It's on film now, it's going to be risky for me. Okay, so what we do is excellent things with anybody who wants to start their own business. This is Casey Lamb. She has, does it say what she is? She's a chemist, yeah, I thought she was. And she has developed a tea cake business. So we have lots of information and advice available for anybody who wants to start their own business. We've got business advice appointments, which are obviously free to students. And we also run a blueprint competition where students can get funding to take forward their business idea. We also have a specialist project for people who are looking to start social enterprises. So if you have sort of identified a need in society and you want to change something in society, then we have a whole sort of heap of resources that can help you, and funding that can help you do that as well. So by now, you've worked out exactly what you want to do with your life, you know exactly what skills you've got, and you've developed them all perfectly. So now you think, right, okay, so I know I want to be a journalist. I know I've got the skills to be a journalist, but now I don't know how I can find my dream employer. Where do I go now? So the ways that we can help with that are we have employer events, again, so hundreds of employers. It's really difficult trying to control them sometimes, do come to our campus. They come in a various sort of different formats. Obviously, we have careers fairs, as well as sort of various other ones, which I'll touch on in a minute. But we've also got presentation events. They do like lunchtime, cafe-based events, networking evening events. If you're really lucky, people do things like wine tasting, just to try and get the opportunity to speak to you in a bit more of an informal opportunity. So do take the most of those that you possibly can. It's just basically information from them about what they do. And when you go to interview or assessment centre, if you can say to Hogan Lovells law firm that you want to work with them because you saw somebody do a talk at lunch or an evening presentation, and you're convinced because of their CSR policy or their charity work or anything that's really driving you towards them, it'll just be so much more convincing. So again, do make the most of that. As it says at the bottom, sorry, we are the 6th most targeted institution by employers, which is obviously a really valuable thing. That employer exposure is really going to help you identify who you want your dream employer to be, but then also try and get that foot in the door. As I mentioned, we also have careers fairs. So we have a huge variety of careers fairs. We have the General Information Fair, which is obviously a recruitment and careers fair, which takes place in November. A specialist law fair, also in November. A science, engineering and IT fair, and a discovery event. Now, the discovery event, as far as I know, is something that is completely unique to Durham. And it is basically, we get a whole load of employers who come to you with absolutely no agenda. So obviously in the rest of them, they want you. Our students are excellent. Students are amazing. So we get targeted by employers wanting to recruit you. But we brought in the discovery event so that you can just find out from them the true picture of the job without it being sort of just the bias of only the positive. Does that make sense? So that takes place in January. And we would get sort of about 20 different employers from a huge variety of industries, and you can just come along, speak to them all, speak to as many or as little as you want, and just say, okay, so what is law really like? What is marketing really like? Tell me the pros and the cons, and really get the sort of bottom of the information. We obviously advertise lots of vacancies to our students. We are very lucky in that we get targeted by many, many employers, so the large graduate recruitment that I've already talked about today, as well as the small, medium enterprises, the smaller businesses. Obviously, as I said before, our students have achieved a certain level of excellence to get into Durham, and many of them continue to do that the whole entire time they're here, through all the society involvement, through any sort of sport involvement, and anything else that they do. So if you can recruit a Durham employee, then your business often will thrive because you use their skills and their knowledge that they've amassed when they've been here and then take that forward. So we do get approached by a huge range of employers to advertise all of their vacancies, and they all go on our system. Obviously, as students, you've got sort of full access to all of them, and you actually can have access to them as graduates as well. So it's not a case as when you leave and you graduate. Graduations have been this week, it's been very exciting. When you graduate, that's it, it's sort of time over. You can still use all of our resources and all of our vacancies available fully for after a year, but then all of the vacancies and jobs boards and stuff you can still get access to. That makes sense? Perfect. So this is just really where we do it. Obviously, we are one central service. We are based in the Palatine Centre, but we also come out to you in all of the departments and in all of the colleges as well. So we do things like the Earth Sciences Conference, which is obviously very specific to earth sciences. So we can do niches within the different departments, as well as obviously sort of basic support as well within the colleges. So you've all been warned and there's no excuses. So why do we do all this? Obviously, it's really important to us as students that you go on to do whatever it is that you want to do. Students come in with completely different aims. Some students want to go on to do postgraduate study to then take something further. Some students know exactly what it is that they want to do when they come in and then they want to leave doing that aim. Other students think, I want to come because I love education and I want to learn more and do more and experience more. And that's brilliant too. But obviously, we want to help our students do whatever it is that they want to do on their next step. So this is our aim and our strategy. So the ambition is to ensure that all our graduates stand the very best chance of securing the type of employment they want. I think that is the secret, in my opinion. Obviously, I am a careers advisor. I am slightly biased with that approach. But it is all about what you want and not about what we tell you that you want. And in line with that, we do loads of additional events that not everybody necessarily knows about at Durham. I know I've sort of mentioned a couple of corporate events today. So I've mentioned like Deloitte and Hogan Lovells and other names. But we do public sector events. So we get people in from like the civil service, fast stream and the public sectors, like sort of graduate schemes as well, to talk about what it is that they do. We do the same things with third sector and charity sector. Obviously, they don't have the same money for the recruitment budget, so we get them in to talk to students about what it is that they want and what they're looking for when they recruit too, because it is all about what you want, not about anything else. So really, this is ultimately the end goal because it all works for us. This is our graduate destinations and shows that 46% of our graduates go straight into full-time work when they graduate, and 26% go into full-time study, with a further 6% going into part-time study. So out of all of our students, there's only 8% that end up unemployed 6 months after graduation. And obviously, even for that 8%, we can still offer all of the support that's available to you when you're a student. And that can often be things like travelling or gap years, that sort of thing that obviously a lot of students take and means that you don't necessarily go straight into employment. Does anybody have any questions about this? No, perfect. So this is our overall rankings, which is really quite important information that everybody should know. So if you're thinking about going somewhere else, do have a look at their rankings too. So we're 5th overall for graduate prospects, which means that just sort of if you're looking to come into an institution, it's all about the increase in when you come in to when you leave and when you're more likely to get sort of graduate employment. And obviously it said before that we're the 6th most targeted institution for recruiters. We're also the 25th globally for recruiters. So for any students who's looking to work internationally, then chances are if you say you've gone to Durham University, whoever you're working with will have heard of Durham University. That reputation's already been established for you. You've just got to prove yourself as an individual past that. And that is everything from me for today. Obviously, that's just sort of some slides I put together thinking that might be what you want to know. But if anybody has any specific questions, please do let me know. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, perfect. I'll be hanging around for a little bit, so if anybody has any questions and they don't want to say it with a roving mic, then do stay behind and we can talk about it then. Thank you very much. Oh, thanks. Oh.